All right, started recording. So today we're just going to go over different variable types. We're going to go into objects, and instantiating classes, or inputs with objects and stuff like and that. It's a pretty light day with regards to new material, new concepts, but we're just going to do a quick review of different variable types and how they kind of work together. So let's talk about scope. Has anybody heard of scope before? I heard a couple of nods, yes. Now, what is scope?
Oh man, defining it. It's like the area of which everything can kind of like use and run in together. I don't know.
So what it looks at, like the data set that it's looking at or can access?
So I've got the area of where things are defined as. I have, what is it? The area, or
The data sets that it's able to see?
so the data sets of what it's able to see, what able to see. Like,
I'm not.
yeah, yeah. So like what a function's able to see or get access to. Yeah, correct. So scope is, like think of like the globe is the entire scope, or a scope, and then you can look at individual parts of the globe or regions of the globe. So wherever a variable, say a variable is declared in the United States, other parts of the world, other regions of the world don't have access to that variable because the scope is defined to the United States, like where that variable is defined as. Whereas if like a variable is defined across the entire globe, like in the outer space where the entire globe can have access to it, no matter where you access that variable within the United States or in Europe or Australia and Asia or wherever, they have access to that global variable. So scope, that's kind of like scope. It's like where regions, the regions of where things are declared in. So local variable. What's a local variable? So what's a local variable versus like
anything within a specific instance would be local, right?
Yeah.
Or
Anything within.
Is it within a method?
It could be anything that's declared within a method so that variable isn't accessible without, or that variable isn't accessible in other methods. So declare within a method. So if I do like name, nope, that's not right. Name, def, print, name, as a name, return, print, name. I do if true, so it's just kind of like runner to print name. Let's run this. Python, variable types, Tom, okay. If I do print name, Tom. Now if I do declare Noah, what should this look like?
Noah
Tom. All right, cool. Yeah, so you can actually redeclare. So what kind of variable would this be? This first name. Global. What kind of variable would this be? Local. Right. So this variable is declared within the region of the print name function method. So only the print name function has access to this specific name variable. So you can go down to global. So we have number equals 101, def, let's see if this works. I haven't done this before. This one, I'm gonna try this something new. Some number, grab a number equals 101, return, print, number. Invoke some number. Print that out, or comment that out. What should we see? So what is number? What kind of variable is number? So if I invoke some number, what should print out? So local variable, which is
101.
101. What if I wanted to print number? What do you think is going to happen?
Error.
Maybe. Oh no, number is not defined. What if I would just global? Still's not working, invalid. Oh, sorry. Number equals 101. See, I'm just seeing if this works. Bam. So what did we just do? We declared in the function method, or in this method, we declared a variable called number, and we added this keyword in front of it, global, which makes it a global variable. But this isn't a global variable all the time. So if I wanted to access number, what do you think is going to happen? So I created a method that has a global, like, declared a global variable called number, assign that number to 101, and then it's going to return the number. So I'm just creating the some number method. And down here, I'm going to just print number. What's going on? It says number is not defined. Why is that?
Because the assignment takes place within a function that hasn't been called.
Correct. So I haven't actually invoked this function yet. So none of this actually happened yet. So I need to actually invoke some number function for this number, this number to become a global variable.
Why weren't you able to have lines 20, 20, 25 on the same line?
Because this just the way the syntax works in Python. You have to declare the number as a global number first, and then you have to like assign it. Yeah, I did not know that. That's why I just tested it out. But I've never seen it like this before, and that's probably why. All right.
Any drawback or danger, or just like why you don't see global variables used more often, or is it just we're not seeing it because it hasn't been applicable yet?
Mainly just, I think it's because when you declare global variables, anytime your application runs, you're going to have these variables that are declared that are invoked and like up there and stored in memory when they're not being used. Okay, so you only want to kind of declare local variables so your memory is not bombarded with all these global variables that you may or may not be using at the time any execution is ran. Instance variables. Alex, what's an instance variable?
It's a variable that's and we just had all this. So it's just for it's a variable that's used in a particular instance.
Is used in a particular instance in a class. So outside a variable that's used in a particular instance in a class. Yeah, it's only a variable that's only available to that specific instance object. Essentially the same thing. So I'm going to copy and paste some code. What differentiates an instance? So I've got this, I created this class student. I've got my dunder and knit. takes in self as the first argument. I got first name, last name, branch. I set variables, first name, last name, branch, email, and print full name. I've got this print full name method that prints the first name, last name, and then the email. What different, like what is, how does, from a syntactical perspective, I don't know if that's the right word, what is the difference between an instance variable and just a regular local variable? How can you differ?
The instance variable can be used by multiple instances within that class, versus the local variable can only be used by that specific instance in that class.
Yes, you are correct. How does it actually differ from a syntactical perspective?
Oh, it has self dot.
It's got the self dot in front of it. So this is an instance variable. Is identified by the self dot in front of it. So I'm going to write, Tom, how do I instantiate a new class object?
Definitely.
No. So how do I instantiate a new student object? So like this? And I need to assign it to a variable, correct? Great. Now, how can I access? I just want the branch of servers that Tom is in myself. How do I access that?
Tom.branch.
Tom.branch. Do I need to invoke it? Like that?
No.
I do not. It's because it's just a variable. And it's just an instance variable. So I'm going to clear that. Comment out. Here. Down here, student. Created a new instance of student called Tom. I want the branch, so I'm going to print Python variable types USMC. Now I want the print full name. Invoking this print full name method. First name accesses the instance variable first name, instance variable last name, instance variable email. This email, I don't actually take in as an argument. I create this after I do call, like instantiate a new student object.
On line 49, do you still need the word print since the line 46 prints it anyways?
You are correct. I do not need the print. So how does the print full name have access to the instance variable? Yep, Justin?
Because we're passing that print full name function, an argument, we're sending an argument of self. So we're sending it an instance, so it's reading the instance variables.
Yep. So we're passing in the first argument as self, so it has access to all the instance variables in the object of that specific instance. Like,
If you did not pass the self on line 45, would the script not work at all, or would it just not be able to access those?
let's try it out. So print full name, I'm not passing in self. Let's see what happens. Yep, so variable types, line 49. Come down here, print full name, type error. Print full name takes in 0 positional arguments when 1 was given. But 1 was given. Which one was given?
Tom.
Right here?
Yeah.
Oh.
Sorry, I was yelling your name.
Tom.
Serious question.
What, Dad? Gosh. Yeah. So need the self. Clear. There we go. I think I showed this to you last week. So I have it printed out first name, returned, last name, returned email. That's done through this part, this \n. If I didn't want to use backslashes like that, how can I make it this format without using backslashes? So right there. Think. So if you use the triple first name, last name, email, clear, it should like that. So in the, if you do triple quotes, pretty much anything in here, it's going to format the way in the terminal the way you want it, like that. So, cool. Let's go down to class variables. What are class variables?
Also known as static variables in Java.
Well, I don't know Java, so I don't know. Someone said static, also known as static variables in Java. I'm not.
So it would be all variables within that class that remain the same through all the instances of that class.
Okay.
So
All the instances of that class.
So it would be like the global version of the self.
It's like,
For the Roman numerals, we had the dictionary itself as a class variable because what's common for all the instances.
okay. Yep. So, Somya, is that right?
So,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was fair. I mess it up. And in the Roman numerals, if in that was that the stretch? Was that the stretch goal one for the Roman numerals? Creating Roman numerals with a class. So for the Roman numerals, you'd have the Roman numerals, that dictionary, as a class variable, because that's never going to change ever, no matter what, regardless of the instance you're going to be using it in. So that will never change. So, yep, so a class variable is a variable that is accessible through all instances, and you can call it on any instance as well as call it on the object, the class object itself. So let's do this. So I'm going to copy some code. So I've got this employee object. Comment this out. Got this employee object. It has a class variable as declared on the top. It's not declared within the init. It's not declared within any method. It's just at the very top. It's number of employees, raise amount, and then this init employee takes in first name, last name, and pay. Takes in the email just like that. So we can also access the class variable by calling it on the class object itself, like employee.numbers of employees, or you can declare it by calling it on the instance. So like Tom equals employee by Tom. Read. Hey, what's BAH around here? 2,000 a month? Whoa, 2043 ballers. So I can access, I'm going to invoke this. Okay, nothing happened, great. So I'm going to do Tom dot number of employees. Oh, I got to print it. One, I think I can also do print employee dot number There we go. So I can call it on the instance, and I can just call it straight up on the class. Class variable. Right here, I'm calling it just on the the class object, calling it on itself. And here I'm within just randomly accessing number of employees by calling tom.number of employees. So you can always call employee, like calling the class object itself, dot number of employees, and changing it. There we go. Any questions with regard to class variables?
I just saw that you had on the global, you said available everywhere, avoid. Why?
What did I say?
Not like global variables. What's the danger?
Say that one more time.
So in the lecture notes, you have global, and then under scope, you say available everywhere, comma, avoid exclamation.
Those are your notes that I say avoid using global variables.
No, that's what is you have, or I mean, Platoon has.
Oh yeah, just avoid.
What's the danger, I guess?
This is the question I asked you about if you don't have to run it, or if you don't have to use up memory for a variable that a method might not ever access, or a function might never access.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Just avoid using global variables at all costs.
Yeah.
There's also if you use that throughout the application, you might change that variable, and it's going to change. It can affect other parts of the application because you might declare a variable globally, but somewhere in the application you might redeclare that variable somewhere else, and they could be using that global variable throughout other methods in the application, and it can just mess up. But oh yeah, good question. Global instance variables, class variables.
Quick question.
Yes.
If you scroll up just a little bit, right there, on line 60 and on line 64, what's the difference between the variables?
60.
Or 61. 61. Yeah, 61 and 64. When does one have the advantage over the other? When should I use them?
61 and 64.
Yes, lines. Those variables. What's the point of having a self dot first name if I could just put on 61?
Because self dot first name.
No, if you don't type it in, if you do it like that, what's the point of having variable on line 60 versus the variable on line 64? What's the difference?
So what's the difference between a class variable and an instance variable? So a class variable I can change throughout any instance. So let's see this. If I do first name, empty string, I can do Tom.
Oh, I see. I got it.
Let's change something else. Let's just, I'm gonna go back. I'll change the raise amount.
Oh, so it's just same for all instances versus different for all instances.
Raise amount equals 2. Hacked into the system. I want to increase my raise a lot. Raise amount. Oh, whoa. Then print tom.raise amount. Oh. So this instance, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Wait. I actually don't know why that is. I think it's. Yeah, I have to look into why.
Okay, but it's one of them is shared between all instances, and the other one is set to each instance.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, but I would think that Tom raise amount. I would expect those to be different, but maybe not. So I guess this is because it's on the instance raise amount. I don't know. I'll have to look into that. But get back to you. Constants. What's a constant variable? A constant variable is something that's never supposed to change, like ever, throughout the application. Like something that's constant is pi, like like gravity. What else is there? Anything that's not supposed to change ever. What's that?
Planck's formula. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. So how do you distinguish a constant in variable in Python versus a regular variable?
The keyword
Constant.
in all caps.
So it's like pi.
Capital letter.
Now, do we have to import something? I can't actually
No,
remember.
we shouldn't have to.
So
There's a module, right? Import constants.
yeah, I think so. So pi equals. Oh man. Oh no. Print pi.
How about print type?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm gonna comment that out.
Technically, we can still change it though.
Type. Here. I'm gonna bring this up. Will it actually say a constant? I don't know.
I have no idea.
Figure that out. Python variable. Float. All right, it's a number.
Like the second
Or this instance of?
What's going on? Why is it like that? Pi. I don't think you're technically not supposed to be able to change it. So if I wrote a function or def change pi equals 3.15, return pi, print pi, and then change. Oh yeah, throw an error. Oh. So yeah, so a constant is something that's never supposed to change. So I'm gonna look this up. Python constants. Constants. Is it there that holds value which cannot be changed? Constant module. Number 10. Is it just a convention that like, hey, if something is capital? Oh, I see. Okay, here it is.
We have to import constant.
Yeah. Import constant. And then if you really truly don't want it to change, you have to do constant I. Okay. Yeah. Oh, so okay.
There's no module constant. I think it's this maybe site.
Let's see. Yeah. Variable types.
How did you try to print pi into a constant of pi?
Just PI.
I was gonna say maybe.
Oh, yeah.
That we saw.
Thank you. It's like, yeah, I was like, why is it
I'm hungry too.
pi is not defined, named there, line 90. So is it print constant pi? That'd be weird. All right, but I can still change it. Oh, well, it's because it's actually technically probably two different. There we go. Oh. Come on. That's weird. That doesn't make any sense.
Wouldn't you just declare another local constant out high and then we're putting out that?
But yeah.
I think import is just importing already predefined value.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it
So yeah, there's this.
doesn't.
So the constant library, right? Constant module Python 3 built-ins. Oh, really? So the convention in Python, if you want to declare a variable that should never change throughout your application, should be all caps. And then assign it something else. That's the convention in Python.
So it's more just for the other developers to know, hey, don't mess with this. But there's really no primitive like constant data type.
Are there tuples in Python or is it just JavaScript?
There aren't tuples in JavaScript. They're sets, but
Well, you can just use a tuple as awesome. There you go.
so whereas in JavaScript you can declare a constant variable by doing const and pretty much anything else that, and then you're unable to manipulate that variable's value ever. But whereas Python you technically can. It's just if you want to declare a constant, do it all caps to visually let the other developers that are working on the application to know that that specific variable should never change. Do you have any questions? Nope. All right, let's take a 8-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll finish up with instantiating objects, instantiating classes, instances. Oh my god, with objects.